So yeah, we are the how's it in English? Rote Laterne.
You're the red light? You mean you're like the at the end of the train, right?
Exactly.
You're finishing the show.
Yeah, we are finishing the show. The Rote Laterne. All right. So yeah, Rote Laterne is doing a little round trip on data quality. We did that session several times. I always say I'm old, but he doesn't want to be expected as old. So we did that, I think, around 8 years now. This kind of session, and every year, or yeah, more or less every year, we think about, hey, what has Microsoft to offer in the data quality area?
So we don't talk about DQS.
We don't talk about DQS.
Okay.
We don't talk about anything that is SQL Server 2012 related, because that was the first time and the last time that Microsoft did something on data quality as such. But yeah. First of all, hey, what's this?
I don't know.
Okay.
Create a presentation.
Cool. Now the presentation is without pictures, but anyhow. So we talk a little bit about us. Come on. Just you start.
Okay, my name is Tillmann. I'm Data Platform MVP and living in near Bonn. At the moment, I always say I'm a CBO, so I'm in my new role as a Chief B Officer.
B Officer?
B Officer, yes.
What is a B Officer? Ah, B Officer.
B Officer.
B
Yeah.
Officer.
Not beer,
This one.
for the honey, yes.
This
exactly.
one. Yeah.
So something
That's fine.
next to
take it with me. No.
Something next to my data topics, and then I'm the CEO of a company called Roundtrip Information Services, sitting in Königswinter and doing a lot of stuff with data quality.
Yeah. Myself, Oliver Engels, I'm located somewhere near Frankfurt, I always say, because nobody knows Bad Camberg.
Nobody knows.
Yeah, unfortunately. Or fortunately, how you see it. Anyhow, yeah, I'm not a CBO. I don't have Bs, unfortunately. Which
D's?
Bs?
You've got dogs. So
Yeah, but I'm a CDO. Yeah, I'm a Chief Dog Officer, something like this. So behind that stuff, that I'm doing a lot of stuff in data. I go hunting. I have 4 dogs, and I'm a happy outdoor person in this case. But today we do stuff on data quality because that's one of our favorite topics. As Tillmann already said, we also build some kind of data quality tools, etc. But this is not any kind of advertising session. This is completely outside of our tools. But if you are interested, just check something like Data.io, and then you will see what we are doing in this case. Now, what we planned for today, as usual, we do a little bit of theory. And then we jump into how this kind of theory reflects in the Microsoft landscape, and want to check out what Microsoft has to offer in this kind of area. So we start with the theory a little bit, try to make that short, but it's always quite good to understand, because sometimes not sometimes, we try to take these kind of ideas or what's available and map it to the DQ process, etc., etc. And what the process is will come in a second. So let's go. First of all, I think normally when we are with an audience, we ask the audience who has data quality problems. Of course, knowing that normally everybody has them, but sometimes people don't see them. They are not the sexiest problem in the world, to be honest. You cannot solve this with shiny, whatever kind of bar charts and animated PowerPoint slides, etc., etc. So they are not really the stuff that people are interested first off, because they come somewhere behind the scenes, but they're causing a lot of problems. And I think this slide is one of the slides that we have from the first start off. And interesting wise, the guy who more or less built DQS, the program manager from Microsoft at that time from Israel, he said something that I like, that data quality is built through people, technology, and processes. And if you have bad data, you in the end, at a certain stage, have as well bad business. It's not obvious, as I said, sometimes it's hidden behind the scenes. We don't talk about the costs of data today. That's something we normally do as well in our sessions, but we have so much stuff we want to show you, so we skip that. But what we want to look at is a little bit where data quality problems are coming from. So first of all, we can say they're coming on when you try to capture data. So immediately in the process of capturing, somebody can maybe do a typo or something like this, or somebody clicks the wrong button, or somebody is answering a question somehow wrong. So with this, you already producing bad data. Then, of course, if you take that data that you captured and you process it further on, there could be also problems in terms of bad data and data quality problems produced, because maybe you did a wrong mapping in your ETL process or something like this. And of course, there is something like, for example, in the architecture, because some of the systems maybe are in a completely different code page, or they are running on complete other systems, Unix, Windows, whatever stuff is going on. And that can cause as well the problem of bad data. And also something about definition. So for example, your sales team can say, hey, my KPI is defined like this. And your controlling team says, oh, by the way, my KPI is defined like that. Or somebody says, hey, my master data on customer is coming out of this system. And another one saying, my customer master data is coming out of a completely other system. So depending on the definition, if there's nothing centrally defined, if there's nothing centrally agreed, you have different views to data, and that can cause data quality problems as well. Okay, and then if you have this kind of system where all the data is in, it could also be that people are just misuse the system or use it wrong because they don't know where to find the right data, or they don't know what kind of attributes out of a certain table are the valid attributes based on the definition that maybe it has set up centrally. So as well, this can cause data quality problems. And last but not least, there's also a kind of aging. Yeah. So, for example, even our slides are aging somehow because the systems don't exist anymore at Microsoft that we maybe proposed 4 or 5 years ago, or maybe your customer record is outdated because the company has moved or whatever you know. Yeah. So expiration as such, this kind of time thing, is also something that produces that data quality. All right, now if you look at the data quality itself, you will find some kind of dimensions and how to treat data quality as such. So on the first side, you have things about accuracy. So how accurate is your data? How many errors do you have in there? How much reflects it really the value that you're expecting from the data? Second thing, consistency. So for example, is there any kind of structure in it that you can believe if this is something that is in attribute A is really the data you need, and it is common in other data sources as well? Third thing, completeness. So do we have all the data? If we do, let's say, an email or something like this, email blast to our customers, do we have all the email addresses? Yeah. If not, what are we doing with the ones that are not yet there? Or then the fourth thing, again, expiration, timeliness. Yeah. Is this something that is up to date? Are our emails up to date? Or is it something like we have in certain situations where maybe email addresses or any kind of data is maybe already aged old and years old, and you cannot use it, or if you use it, you would get a lot of bounces in there. And then on the sixth dimension, we would say validity. So ensure that if you create some kind of overall business rules, how data should look like in your company, are they correct? Is this a correct value in the correct field? Do we have that in this place? And then last but not least, you have the problem of duplicates, for example. So uniqueness is another pillar of it. So most of the time when you maybe merge data from two different sources, you can create double entries, no matter if this is a customer, no matter if this sometimes 2 or 3 of the products, and they even should not be completely equal. Maybe they are similar. Maybe there is some kind of error in the writing, and product A is a similar thing than product B, but no system will really differentiate that. Yeah. So the uniqueness of the whole thing is also quite important. Now let's jump into how do we solve this? How do we approach this kind of data quality problems that we have today? So on the first side, it's something that I think everybody should be aware of, and it's normal. You don't know about your data quality problems if you don't look at your data and profile your data and see exactly what's in there. Yeah. And then you can say, hey, if I can profile it and I see what's in it, I maybe can apply my rules to it. So saying, okay, what kind of expectations I have to my data and what kind of maybe rules I have defined, and are they applicable to it? And then out of that, if I assess it, I will find some issues. And these issues have to be corrected and have to be cleaned. And the last step is to control this whole process and to monitor it as an ongoing process in your whole environment. So it's really necessary to see if our data quality evolves over time or not. So these 4 elements are the core process. And from a cleaning perspective, or from a work process, we always define a kind of optimization workflow. And the optimization workflow is, as said, and it's mapping to the overall process, that first of all, you validate and profile your data. Then you try to standardize it. So to bring it on the same kind of ground so that in the end you can compare it. So for example, to get these things on the same level. Then you try to clean it. So you try to correct the stages, maybe names, maybe you have to split stuff, like you have a field where your first name and the last name is together and you need to split that, or you need to split an address, or you extract to have the postcode or a product ID or something like this. And then on the next level, you have the possibility, as everything is corrected and everything is clean, now you can compare this. You can see, hey, do we really have now duplicates? Because my product A, my product B is now cleared, it's corrected, that everything is product A. And then you have the count of product A 2 times in your systems, and you need to understand that, you need to match it, and then you need to merge it into a golden record as such. In the end, you can say as well, on top of that, we maybe can cluster it. Now, as we know we have the clean data, we can do additional information. We can cluster the customers, we segment that or something like this. And then at the end, we also have the possibility to enrich the data. So we can put additional information to our data sources and make the data even better in this case. Now, with this kind of process, with this kind of workflow, what we want to do now is something we want to jump into a little bit of the actual architecture patterns that we have. So maybe you saw in the other sessions with the ladies from Norway, the way how Microsoft is currently having Databricks, having Synapse, having Fabric as such. All of them are certainly based on this kind of lakehouse architecture. And if we look into something like this, you will see most of the time you have something in place that stores the data in this kind of data lake approach. In the end, it's a storage account. It's just this. But the way that is important for us, especially, is how to structure that, and how to structure that as well from a perspective of data quality. And here we not really apply to the way the naming conventions that maybe are currently quite favorite, like the medallion architecture. But it really depends on how you see it and what you would like to do. So we call it raw, quality, and curated, because from our perspective, it's like, and you see that below, that it's the value chain of data. So it starts with raw data, and you can see this really as the production process in your normal company where you're building, let's say, a physical product or something like this. You start with raw material, and then you have some kind of plans, some kind of areas where you build this product, and where you achieve, based on your knowledge, quality on that product and value on that product. And then in the end, you put it into a warehouse. Maybe you have different packagings in terms of whatever sizes, product sizes, a small size, a combination of products, etc., etc. And we do it in a similar way. So we say we have raw data in the raw zone. We have a quality zone. The quality zone is divided in our processes like correction, integration, and enrichment. You understand? That's our process. That's our workflow to involve and enhance the data. And in the end, we put that into a curated zone. The curated zone means, okay, this is now a finished good. The data is now a finished good, and you can do that. The finished good as such can be already discovered by the users, but it can also be provisioned in, let's say, better stages, like specifically for a certain user group, like you will try to aggregate the data again to make it easier to consume for maybe the people from sales or something like this. And then you have a kind of consumption section where you maybe also put that into stuff like special formats. Again, this also can then lead into the semantic layer that we now all know is no longer a data set. Like in Power BI, it's now a semantic layer. And this whole process, we see this as a kind of data value chain. And in the end, in the semantic model, the data has its best approach. And you can say, hey, this is bronze, silver, gold, but you can also start, this is bad, data and super good data or something like that. So it is completely useless. The importance is to understand where you do your work with the data. And from our perspective, we do our work, all transformations are in quality. Every time somebody comes in and looks, where do we have problems with our data? He can compare it in the raw zone and see, hey, everything is fine. It's a one-to-one copy from the source. He can see in the quality zone any kind of transformation problems, and then he should expect the best data in the correct. Okay. Further, if we apply that, for example, to the way how Microsoft is currently designing something like their landscape, and you see already a lot of symbols that are related to Fabric. So you see the one lake in the middle, but also in the one lake, you can split that into raw, quality, and curated. You can maybe build lake houses as a lake house for raw, as a lake house for quality, and a lake house for curated. And then overall, and I think you saw that as well in the previous sessions, and we don't go into that deeply, you see there's additional stuff, some kind of governance around it. On the one side, you have Microsoft Purview for that, and then you have any kind of additional things like, for example, log analytics and all these kind of other tools that do the operational things on your landscape. Now, what we want to do now is to look a little bit at where are the Microsoft solutions specifically for data quality. You know where they are? Yes, there are some of them. Some of them. But honestly, since 2012, there is not really something that is happening in this area. Yeah? We don't know why. There were some approaches to it, but unfortunately not really that you can say, hey, Microsoft has a data quality product. And if I want to do proper data quality, if I want to support the processes I have a product, I have a service from Microsoft that I can use. So now our problem.
If you're using the SSAS information runtime and data factory, you can still use the data profiling.
Oh, you can use the data profiling. Cool.
Yeah.
There you can also use summary as a function in your notebook, and you get some kind of profile for it as well. But guys, what we are currently talking about is something that is not really 100% dedicated to data quality. Now, of course, what you would expect in a certain space is that if I read something about governance, I know normally data quality falls under this kind of governance umbrella. So I would expect that Microsoft Purview has something in there, and we will have a look into this because it has something at the moment, but it's just not really what the whole process is all about. But we will look into some other stuff because what we want to show you there are some elements in the whole area where you have the possibility to use some quite cool SDK services as such to be able to help you with achieving data quality. Again, it's not something out of the box. There is no product from Microsoft or service from Microsoft that you can switch on, and then you have the possibility to do that. So with that, let's start and look a little bit into the possibilities. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Good. So now the first thing we want to show you is, of course, Microsoft Purview. And if we want to look into Microsoft Purview as such, of course, we will jump into the Microsoft Purview account, and we will see the Microsoft Purview catalog. But in the catalog, excuse me, if you see it on the left side, is there anything about data quality as such? Not really. Of course, Microsoft said, no, we don't have anything about master data managed. That's something you can do with a third party. But data quality is still, in some sessions from the PMs, even in public, they said, yeah, data quality can be something that we have on the roadmap. But currently, we did not see anything yet. Now, what there is something that it's called data estate insights. So a kind of analysis how your current data landscape looks like. And if you look into something like this, you can go into overview, and there is something that is called data steward, and I hope it will open up. Hello. Yes, here we are. So there is something that is called data stewardship as such. And of course, a data steward is responsible for data quality. So maybe we can look into that. And of course, my environment is not very well maintained. But what you see here is there is some kind of idea in terms of, okay, there is something that says fully curated. Remember, our last zone is the curated zone, though it means curated that it should be 100% correct in this way. But curated in the part of Microsoft Purview here means just, okay, there is a classification. There is an owner assigned. The data is somehow actual in this case, but there are no rules on top of it. So, for example, you have no business rules that will look at it and say, yes, it is created in this case. So this is still missing. But of course, it is something that gives you a kind of idea what is in your data estate. So in your different collections, which are the different areas you can divide in the data map, and you can have a little bit of an overview how good is your data catalog maintained? Yeah, it's not how good is your data quality, but how good is your data catalog maintained? Do you have the right people assigned to the systems? Is the data classified, etc., etc.? So maybe a kind of data quality tool, but honestly, it is not active. It's just reviewing something. It's a kind of profiling, so to say, in terms of what is available in this case. Now, let's jump a little bit further, and we have some other stuff. And that is something quite new, and Tillmann will go to that.
So this is a library which you can use. So it's a Python library, but currently you can only use it on Fabric. And it's called Semantic Link, or SenPy. And first of all, I like to install this library on my cluster and import some functionalities here. And
can we say that this kind of functionality here you can do as well in Databricks, so in any kind of notebook that you have? Or is it just related to Fabric?
That's just related to Fabric. So you can use this library at the moment only in the Fabric Spark cluster. And after I loaded the data, I have the possibility with this library to find dependencies in my data set. So that means that the library checks my data set and identifies functional dependencies between different colors. And what I can do is I can plot these dependencies and get this following diagram, where I can see directly which columns has dependencies to other columns. And next thing I can do is I can get dependency violations. So where the system detects which columns violates the dependencies to other columns. And for that, I get a result where I can see that my postal code has violations to city, which means here at the end that I have, in this example, the same postal code, but references to different cities, or the other way around, somewhere where I have different cities mapped to the same postal code. And I see here that in my data I have 37 violations of it. And what I can also do is I can plot these directly in my notebook to see it a little bit more in a visual, which zip code references to which city. And here you can also see that I have multiple zip codes references to the same city, but also same city has multiple zip codes and so on. And I can also go through the data and say exactly, okay, count me please the number of cities for a specific zip code, and the system gives me the numbers back. And also different here, I can go through it with the city and get the zip codes. This is just a small piece of functionalities I have here in my notebook to clean the data. First, to see the references, see the violations, and then I have also possibility to clean that. So here's a functionality in it where I can just change the data from just uppercase to a format where I can, the first letter is uppercase and the rest is lowercase. And after that, I list again my dependencies, and out of 37, now I only have 21. So that means my data is already cleaned a bit, because not every city is now written in uppercase. And I can go further with that. There are other functionalities where I can just say, okay, now please drop all dependency violations. And if I then give out the data with the dependency violations, I don't have any in it. So now I have clean data. But here I would say, Oliver showed it in the diagram, there's part monitoring. And here now I have cleaned my data, but I have nothing to monitor because I don't see which data I have dropped. I just dropped some data, but I don't see which columns were involved here. I just cleaned it, and yeah, if there's wrong data in it, it's now in the trash, and nobody is able to correct it. But it's still a cleansing process, and this is one library you can use here inside of Fabric, which has a lot of more functionality in it.
Exactly, that's what I just wanted to say. It has really a lot of more cool functionalities as such.
Yeah, there are also much more clean functionalities inside, where you can check directly if a zip code is really a zip code, if the city is a zip code. You can check latitude and longitude, and these things, and you can connect to your semantic model with this library, so that you really can connect directly in Fabric to your data, and not only load CSV data as I did it here now in the demo.
If the listeners will now ask, hey, why do I have to connect to the semantic model? Because Oliver said everything we do in terms of data quality processes should be in the quality zone. So the semantic model is on the right side, and it's definitely not there anymore. The point is that, of course, sometimes you have the situations that your data is already somehow prepared from, let's say, a complete other team or from completely other sources. And in the past, it was really quite difficult to understand in a current semantic model, so in a data set itself in Power BI, how the data is structured. And this is something now you can connect to, and you can work on, and you can write back. And this is something that we really like, to be honest.
Yeah. Okay, next part, clean this data wrangler. So we do a bit more data cleaning here. And now I will jump over to the correct notebook. Hopefully I will find it. I will not find it. Where it is. I will always open the same one, correct?
Mm-hmm.
I will go here to data wrangler. Okay. So now we check also in Fabric a new tool which is called Data Wrangler. And here again, I just loading data. And this is now a sample data set from the Titanic. And I just loading the CSV file and store it in a data frame.
Yeah.
And
normally you would load that from a raw zone.
Yeah.
Because you are now working for preparing this transformation in the quality zone.
Yeah. And the only thing you have to do to work with the data wrangler here is to make sure that you load your data into a data frame. And if you have done that, usually it should not take so long, but sometimes it takes longer than expected. You can go here to data, and then you should have here the button transform data frame in data wrangler. And if you click on the arrow, the system will list all the data frames from your notebook where you have data inside. At the moment, because the system does not load the data, there is no in it, and I can't see my variables here and can't go through that. But I will jump over to another part where you can see it. It's much easier and faster. So usually, if you see here your data frame, you can click on it, and an editor will be opened. And the same functionality you have in VS Code. There's also an add-in which is called Microsoft Data Wrangler. It's currently a preview version.
It's free.
And it's free for sure. And now I have an Jupyter notebook open in VS Code, and here I'm also loading my data frame. And if I now print this data frame, I get a button here, Launch Data Wrangler. And this is the same thing what I'm doing now, what you should expect it here from the Data Factory. And
Data Factory. No, it's
sorry,
Data Factory.
like Fabric. And if you click on that, you will see this grid, and maybe a lot of people will think now about another tool.
Wow, that's Power BI.
Exactly, Power BI.
The older guys would say, "Oh, is this Pendleton?" No.
Maybe. And here you see your data, and you see directly a distribution of the data column. And what you can do here now is you can filter your data, you can transform your data. So the cleaning process in data quality is transformation. So that's apart from ETL, it's transformation. And if I go here and we'll just say, okay, I'm only interested in the people from my Titanic data set, which had died. I click on that and say filter, and then here on the left side, I see my column survived, and say equal to 0. And then you see directly here that all the records are marked red, which are filtered out now because equal to 0, and everything which is equal to 1 is filtered out, and this will be marked as red. And if I click here now apply, my data set will be filtered, and all the pixels, or the filter is applied to the data set. And here you can do different things, which is I think normal from transformation part. You can drop duplicate rows, drop missing values, and also on. But there's one functionality which I really like, and this is also something which is available in Power BI, which is called new column by example. And if I click to that, I say, okay, here I will do that for my column name, and my new column should be called first name. And you see here I have a green column now. Oh, sorry, I don't want to do that with last name. I will change that again. And then I will enter here from. And then the system automatically detects what I've done and enter all the first and last names from the name column to the completely new column.
And it automatically applies any kind of profiling to it as well. So it doesn't this thing count on it, which I also found quite nice.
Yeah, correct. And if I now say apply, the data will directly apply it, or the rules will directly apply it. But now I've applied several rules, and but how could I work with the data now? Because it's just here my data window. How can I go back to the data? And this is the really cool part. I just say here back to notebook, and now I'm in my notebook from where I opened before the data wrangler, and I have a completely new cell where the system automatically creates me a function in Python which does exactly the same steps I did before inside of the data wrangler. And I can execute that here and see the results here with my last name column only survived with 0, and the data is directly filtered to that. And this also makes it possible just to copy this function now back to Fabric and work there again in the notebook.
So now, yeah, from that perspective, the data wrangler is an external tool.
Yep.
You can create based on your interactions with the tool, not the normal Power Query code that you normally have, let's say in desktop or something like this. You create virtually Python code to it.
Yeah.
And this is something that, to be honest, scales in a certain way. Yeah.
Yeah, we had also discussions about that because we have this functionality from Power Query, which you can use as mapping data flows in Data Factory, which looks similar. Yeah. But I think especially for scaling and directly here in Python notebooks, this is much better and faster than what you have in the mapping data flows.
Especially if you are like me, a Python loser. It's quite interesting also for learning.
Yeah, but then maybe mapping data flows would be better for you.
No, I don't know. Okay. I think it's better in this case because yeah, if you look into the strategy or into the way how Microsoft is doing things in their estates, SQL and Python are honestly more or less, even you like .NET and C#, but honestly, SQL and Python are the ones that are the favorite childs of Microsoft in terms of doing things for any kind of transformational business.
And I think after 3.2, .NET is no longer a part of Spark classes also at Microsoft, so you can still only...
You can try it here.
Yes, you can use Python, R, Scala, and that's what you can use.
I saw in the comments somebody...
No VB, sorry.
No VB6, Ben, unfortunately. Yeah.
This session is over.
I saw somebody mentioning SSIS. You can also query it here on SSIS, just for data quality perspective. What? You can query it here for SSIS.
Yeah.
Because all your favorite tools are going...
You can still use SSIS in ADF.
It's true.
Yeah, so that's a possibility. And
He built a mapping component for SSIS for data quality services.
Yeah.
Many years ago.
many years ago.
Yeah,
So many years ago.
so many years ago. All right. Yeah.
Okay.
So this is something that we produce code that we can use in our quality zone to build notebooks that do the transformation, that help people to transform the data to achieve things like correction processes, integration processes.
Exactly.
Oh, integration. I didn't saw anything like integration in terms of like what we know from Power Query, where we say we have merge and append. I think that's not yet.
That's not yet in there. Also, what I didn't see so far in the product still preview, that you're not able to go back to the data wrangler and that the system understands what you have already done with your data. You are able to copy your own code or insert your own code into the data wrangler. So maybe you can copy this functionality there, but it's not like what you have in Power Query where you just open it and delete some steps. That's at the moment not possible. But what's also really cool is if you install that into VS Code, you can easily open now Paquet files with VS Code with a data wrangler. You can just right click on it in the file overview and say open this data wrangler, and all the Paquet files will directly visualized in VS Code.
Like this.
Okay.
All right. You have even more stuff to show.
Yes, exactly.
What's happening? Yeah, we have so much stuff. Now we are switching to Databricks, but again, it's not that we say, hey, you have to use Fabric for data quality. You have to use whatever thing to do data quality, because it's a problem that you will have everywhere, and you can have solutions everywhere to address that. And this time we are opening a notebook in Databricks.
Yeah.
And we are using a special library.
Exactly. We are open.
If your cluster is still alive.
Should be alive, but somehow
we talk too much. I think the same thing will happen with me and my
maybe.
As well.
Okay, maybe I will just explain it so that we can go through it a little bit. This is an SDK which we have, or which is there for Apache Spark, so it's not dedicated to Microsoft. It's an English
dedicated
SDK
to Databricks as well.
Exactly, it's English SDK for Apache Spark. And what you can do with this SDK is you can connect directly from Spark to services like OpenAI and also Azure OpenAI, which is more or less the same. And then the system has functionalities inside where you can check a little bit your data. So there's one functionality which is called explain. So where the system can explain in English to you what you have loaded in your data. And here's an example. I have some auto sales in it. The system explains
car sales,
sorry. The system explains that you have different brands in it and different sales and percentage from that, and it displays relatively nicely what you see. Then you can verify your data and define some expectations. And maybe you can just say, okay, expect that my sales change percentage has to be between -100 and 100.
Remember, expectations are more or less similar to something like business rules, because you expect what should be the perfect data quality in your system.
Yeah,
correct?
Exactly. And so you can create some expectations based on your data. And you can do that, what I have done here, for your complete data frame. So the result will then be true or false for your complete data frame. But you can also do that with, instead of verify, you can use it with transform and say, okay, add me a specific column to my data and store there the expectation maybe of my US sales higher than 100,000. And now you get a new column in your data frame, see it there.
So it creates a new column and it places all the values that are matching the expectation into that column. All the others are empty.
No, it creates a new column with true or false based on the expectation. And that is something which I like to explain here, because you get now over to the other stuff from OpenAI.
Yeah.
The English SDK helps you, I would say, talk to your data, but it helps you to write Python code. It is not to identify correctly what is in your data. So I have done an additional part here, transform, and saying adding a column country with the origin country of a brand.
Mhm.
And usually I expect it's the first time, okay, I now get a new column country
Mhm.
and see for BMW, it's Germany,
Mhm.
yeah, and something like that.
Mhm.
But what the system is doing is does that for the first 3 columns, and then printing a Python function with some case statements and tell you how you can write your code on your own.
Mhm.
Because the English SDK is not like other OpenAI ChatGPT things where you can enrich your data with that.
Mhm.
It's to write Python code.
Mhm.
So it helps you writing Python code. You can also draw diagrams directly in the notebook or something like that. This is easily done by the English SDK. It helps you with transformation and verifying your data, but you can't use it to enrich your data.
Mhm. Okay, and it's called English SDK because you can describe what you want to do in English.
Exactly.
And it's not the French SDK and it's not a German SDK. So currently this whole stuff is only in
It's the English SDK.
which is fine. Yeah. But
Okay.
it definitely helps you in a way that you can maybe solve some kind of tricky problems. In there.
That's correct.
All right. How many minutes do we have? Oh yeah, we are good in time.
Okay, then let's go over to
All right.
this one.
Yeah. So I even don't try to start the notebook. I'm just going a little bit through the code. Now, this part is a little bit, what I say, marketing? No, not really. The point is, we thought internally as well as a lot of businesses and a lot of people today to think, hey, what kind of thing can do this kind of ChatGPT stuff for us? Especially when you look into the point of data quality, can help ChatGPT to solve data quality. And if we talk about ChatGPT and we want to do that integrational into our Microsoft landscape, of course, we have as a functionality, we have OpenAI Studio in there. And let's see, do we have it open? Yeah. Yeah. So I in my Azure subscription, I installed or I deployed an Azure OpenAI service, and this service has different possibilities. It has things like creating a chatbot. It also has things like, and if we go into this, it says go to Azure OpenAI Studio. So you will see, hopefully, if it runs more or less performant, you will see here on the left side, you have different kind of playgrounds to it. Yeah, so you can do pictures, you can do chats, and there is something that is called completions. And that's the difference to what you just mentioned with the English SDK. It gives you the possibility to say, okay, complete that. So I ask you a question and you maybe can answer that question, or I can complete a sentence or something like this. Now, what we try to do here is to say, how can we leverage that for the help of doing something for data quality? And in my case, I try to do things like, hey, can I use OpenAI and the completion service in Azure to enrich my data? And what we did in that notebook is, on the one side, we of course we connect ourselves with Fabric to OpenAI, retrieve any kind of code, etc. So having the possibility to authenticate against the OpenAI service, and then, and that's the interesting thing, is something like here. Where's the summit? Oh, yeah, here. We go in and ask ChatGPT some questions about our data. So for example, I have a data frame, and in the data frame, I have a country name, and I can ask ChatGPT or the large language model, I can say, hey, can you tell me the ISO code for it? Another scenario is I have in my data frame a first name and a last name, but maybe I don't have a gender in it. And I try to say, hey, is it possible that I can use OpenAI or ChatGPT to translate the name into a gender? Yeah. And in addition, I thought, this may work. Maybe we can also have a look into things like, hey, can we enrich our data with, I have a city, and hey, can you tell me the number of residents in that city? Or can you maybe tell me the distance to that city? Of course, what you can do is you always have maybe some other additional libraries where you have all the cities of the world, where you have the number of residents and the size, etc. But do you always have that for all of them? Do you have that available? Is this kind of dynamic? Maybe not. And that's especially as well for the gender. There is a kind of data set with all, let's say, millions of first names by different nationalities or something like this. Yeah, and it's always to maintain. Now, we try here to just use the ChatGPT to resolve that. So you see, I've built a little data frame, and you see we have first names in there. So different. So there's Brigitte from Germany, Dominic from Spain, Riley from the US, etc., or Matthew. Those different names in there. And then we have as well on the other side, we have the city. Yeah. So for example, San Leonardo, I don't know, whatever. It's produced this kind of record with a Python library called Faker, which is also quite interesting if you want to do some kind of unit testing with some kind of sample data and you want to try to test your data processes, your quality processes. You can use Faker to produce this kind of records. And yeah, that's something we did here. And then what you need to do is you have to create these kind of prompts. So this kind of completion works always. You have a prompt, like, maybe when you already worked with ChatGPT as such on the website where you enter something and then ChatGPT answers to you. This kind of what you enter is in the prompt. This will be fed from the data frame, from that attribute that is in your, or from the column that is in your data frame. Now, we take that and fire it, build some kind of functions to do this, and then we fire the whole thing against the OpenAI service in Azure. And what the OpenAI service is now giving to us is, on the one side, you see in our data set the prompt, so how many residents has the name of the town. But what we will get now as well is the answer. So on the one side, we get an error if, for example, ChatGPT wasn't able to create this kind of answer. And then we get a response. So that's what you normally get when you talk to ChatGPT and you get all that stuff. And the response is a kind of JSON object. But what you see here, and I will zoom in a second. Here we go. Yeah, what you see here is, oops, I don't work with. Again, here we go. Yeah, you see text, and then beside that text, oh, super. You see the ISO code in there, and on the other side, let's see. Look into, oops, to this. Yeah, you see there is something like there, whatever. Let's have a look into this a little bit more in depth. You see as well here from a gender, it says male, for example. Yeah. Now, what you need to do is you need to pass that kind of JSON object. And that's something what we did underneath. I hope it's still there. Yeah, here we are. So we pass that JSON object that OpenAI service delivers to us. So for the country, it's quite easy, and I think it's quite reliable. You see, there are some things that is written in small capitals, and the other thing is in high. Well, then you see, for example, here we have gender. Yeah, and most of the time, ChatGPT answers correctly, correctly in the format correctly. It says male. Sometimes it also gives you stuff like feminine. Sometimes it says both, which is definitely correct for Riley, and so on. Yeah, so you need to understand a little bit how to get the right data out of it, or the right format out of it. If we go a little bit further and we go down to where we are with our distance. Oh, I think we kicked that. Okay. So what you will see is, or what you would have seen is that, for example, in the kilometer part, you see, for example, here that the system will not give you 100% the correct format on the one side, but also it may give you not the correct answer from a content perspective, because sometimes maybe it will find something that is more the distance on the road, something is the distance maybe in the air, or sometimes the number of residents. It says, as of a certain time period, we think it is the number of residents. And that gives me the point where I say, hey, yes, you can use things like this for your enrichment in terms of the data quality process as such. But of course, you need to understand that the quality you get from ChatGPT is not predictable. Yeah,
so that's if we look back to the dimensions you showed before, and part of accuracy and validity, you can't trust ChatGPT here.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's not something where you say, hey, yeah, the system is bad, but it's the way how this whole large language model are working, and there you need to understand what's going on. But we just wanted to show you what is possible and how you can integrate that in your whole landscape, and what kind of services you have already that maybe can help you. And maybe you have some even better ideas than just doing residents or kilometers or something like this. But I think it's a quite good one to achieve that. All right, so that brings us to our last part. So we have 2 minutes. So, future, way forward, what should you do? So on the one side, we will definitely don't see any kind of DQ functionality from Microsoft. That's our assumption in the near future. Maybe they will implement something in Microsoft Purview. We don't know, but we don't know what kind of functionality it is, how much it will help you in the whole process, or is it maybe just profiling? Is it maybe something that is checking the data, but not transforming, or not give you any kind of possibility to enhance the data? So you have from our perspective, two strategies. Strategy one is, as we do that, you do your own stuff. Yeah, so you try to build your own quality functionality in the notebooks, and yeah, it is flexible. You can do what you like, but it could be sometimes very complex, and it needs a lot of okay, because everybody is standing behind us.
Exactly.
Oh, because I'm 1 minute over. No. Yeah, it could be quite complex for you. Strategy two is you buy a third-party tool. Yeah. So, for example, you can buy stuff from Talent Informatica, but there are other quite nice companies on the market who are offering tools that maybe can help you. So this is something that we would like to give to you. And with this, until the guys making here completely crazy things, I will close the session. I hope you get some kind of inspiration on data quality, and with this, we're done. All right?
Yep.
Good.
Thank you.